God, Klatt, good to have you here, brother.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Yes.
Very good to be here. So, you have an issue with Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame right now.
Right now.
Yes, sir.
I know what you put the emphasis on. Right now. I have no issue with Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame to go to greener pastures, to go to LSU right now or at any time in his career. You know why? Because this was a promotion for him. This was an opportunity to really fight for the winner's circle versus just being happy to be at the bottom of the podium as Notre Dame was. Think about this. Brian Kelly has won more games at Notre Dame than any coach in Notre Dame's history. All that salsa and no chips. Nothing. You imagine?
Because I love chips and salsa.
They go together, right?
Yes.
Like they go together, and you look at them when they get into these bowl games, when they get into the college football playoffs, all of a sudden he realizes through self-scouting and also scouting the opponent, oh, we don't qualify. Look, we're here, but we know that we're going to be cemented at the bottom of the podium. They've been blown out in every one of their appearances. You know why? Because there's levels to this. Let's talk about those levels, because everyone walks around, they see us on television, glamorous. You living the life, you living the life. Look at you, the watches.
I'm not living your guys' life. You guys, I mean, look at you. You're all dressed up and everything.
And that's my point. I humbly say this. We're a part of the 1%, as they say in this world, right? But there's a difference between the 1%ers and the 0.1%ers. Let's talk about this, because I have never in my life put my credit card down and said, hey, where's that private jet? Let me get somewhere, right? But I do know people, alums, friends, celebs, who not only do they do that, but they actually own their own plane. Now, someone will look at me from the outside and say, Marcellus, you are winning. And I'm saying, dog, I am at the bottom of the podium compared to others. This guy just got a promotion to a situation that is full and ripe of devotion. Why did it rhyme? Because in Louisiana, more so than any other state, those kids are loyal to their state. Think about it. Florida's a breeding ground. But look at Florida State. Look at Miami. Look at the University of Florida, just fired my guy from Columbia, Dan Mullen. Look at those programs. The guys are not as loyal, or it's not manifesting the same. University of Texas, Texas schools, doing well, not exactly getting over the hump. California schools, we got the prospects, but they go elsewhere as well. But Louisiana, you think about this situation for Brian Kelly, he's realized this is a chance to finally fight Nick Saban, the only other coach who has more wins than him, who has the chips and the salsa.
I don't disagree with anything that you just said. Right? Like, everything that you just said is accurate. I just don't think it's the reason that he left. I think it has to do with nine figures.
Oh.
Folks, everybody in the world, and I said this to Colin, and we're all for sale.
Yeah.
Okay? You're for sale. I'm for sale. You're for sale. You're for sale at home. There's only two reasons why you don't take it. You're either not worth it, or you have a contractual obligation to keep you in your current situation. The problem with college football, that whole article that blasts him as classless and blah, blah, blah. No. Stop. The structure of college football put him in this position. It put Lincoln Riley in this position. By saying that you want an early signing day period, you're going to have coaches that are fired earlier, and then those coaches that are going to get hired at those locations need to get hired before this early signing day. Why? Because recruiting is the lifeblood of college football. So this is not a Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley problem, and all the fans at Notre Dame and Oklahoma are going to get so mad at that because they want to label him as classless and they want to label him as a snake. No. You're for sale too. You're either just not valuable, not getting the offer, or you're in confines that prevent you from taking that. In the NFL, there are tampering rules that go along with when you can talk to coaches and when you can't talk to coaches. And there are league years, and there is a calendar that is laid out that prevents stuff like this from happening. Okay? The problem with college football is the structure of college football. All right? Brian Kelly said a couple of weeks ago, and I believed him, and I've sat with him, and I've heard him talk about Notre Dame. He loved Notre Dame. He loved his players. But the bottom line is this. He said, listen, I'm at Notre Dame, and I'm going to be at Notre Dame unless there's some random fairy godmother that, is out there. Well, guess so happens that the fairy godmother wore purple and gold and laid out 9 figures. Nobody's saying no to that. And if you think you are saying no to that, you're lying to yourself. So everything that you said is right, okay? And I think that Notre Dame has a hill to climb for a 1%er program that is on the podium and everyone would love to be there. They still feel like they may have a ceiling, right? And Brian felt that when he played the Alabamas of the world or the LSUs or the Clemsons of the world, and he felt that ceiling. And maybe he said, you know what? I want to go box with both of my hands and not one hand tied behind my back in those situations. But I don't think that was the reason. I think that the reason was you dangle $100 million in front of any person on the planet, and they're going to go do that job that they've been very good at for the last decade plus of their life.
Klatt, I don't have an issue with Brian Kelly leaving. I have an issue with the timing of when Brian Kelly left. And I understand that college football may have put him in this predicament, but he's in this predicament nonetheless. I can't give it a pass. Brian Kelly might be going to chase money, as we all at some point in time either are or will go to chase money. But I always remember that question, who are you becoming as a result of the chase?
Okay.
And when I think about this decision of Brian Kelly, who is he becoming as a result of the chase? And who did he become to the players he left behind? Maybe it's because I am most near to being a college athlete that it hits me harder. Maybe it's because I recall, Klatt, going into my senior year, I thought about going to the NFL early. Will Muschamp, my defensive coordinator, he encouraged so many of us to come back to Texas for our senior year. Went to the national championship game sophomore year. Junior year, we go 5-7. I'm sure you recall, you covered it. After junior year, I'm like, yo, we already been to a championship. We already been to the lowest 5-7. It's time to get up out of here. Hey, no, come back. Let's right the ship. Let's right these wrongs. We can bring this university back. I say, okay, cool. I come back. Keenan Robinson, another linebacker, comes back. Keyston Randall, another defensive tackle, comes back. We're all like, okay, we'll come back.
Let's do it.
We're at the banquet. Final season. Linebacker sitting at the table. I'm sitting here. Keenan sitting there. Muschamp's supposed to be sitting there.
Uh-oh.
Where's he at? Seat never gets filled. I checked the ticker. Will Muschamp accepts the job to become the next head coach at the University of Florida. I think that's where he departed to. I was like, bro, and maybe because I was 20, 19 at the time, took me years to get over that. Or maybe because I felt like you gave me your word. And at least to me, your word is your bond. So at the point in which Brian Kelly told the Notre Dame players, Mike Tomlin said it best when he was asked if he was going to leave Notre Dame. Remember what Mike Tomlin said. Never say never, but never. Close quote. So if you are going to quote Mike Tomlin in regards to are you leaving, big dog, just don't lie to me. So that's my issue. And Klatt, I look at it like this.
Oh, my God.
People who don't take issue with Brian Kelly leaving in the middle of the season.
Look at me when you
People who don't.
Yes. People.
We're sitting right in front of you.
People who don't take issue with Brian Kelly leaving right now, the timing of his decision, they are either too detached from that college athlete experience or they are too attached to money. Because I understand that Brian Kelly got to go chase his bag, but there's a timing to it. So you're either too detached from that college football experience and realizing these 18 and 19-year-olds, and I know you're not because you do it every freaking week at the highest level, or we're too attached to the money. And so I'm just thinking about the kids who felt betrayed right now.
That sounds great.
Get him, please.
But the answer to what you're talking about lies with what you just said. This is not a unique problem. Right? It happened to you, and it's going to happen again. And you know what that's called? The rules of the race. And so if you're going to get in that race and you're going to take off from that starting line, then you're putting yourself out there. And if you're going to be hurt about a guy breaking your heart, then joke's on you.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but that's the truth. That's the truth.
I think it's easy for us, all up here as grown men, some older than others. I think it's easy for us. I think it's easy for us all up here as grown adults to be like, yo, joke's on you, 18, 19-year-old. You shouldn't have believed that coach in the first place. But Klatt, go back.
Okay, so what is it, like 21? Is it like having a beer? Like, all right, you're 22, now you can be heartbroken. What is this?
He's college ball is not a business. Because to the student athletes,
it is a business.
To the student athletes,
hold on. First of all, stop living in your yesteryear. Did you guys have NIL deals when you? No. Okay. Did you have the transfer portal when?
You could transfer. You could transfer.
You could transfer when I played, too. But guess what? Do we have a transfer portal? Exactly. And sit out a year and penalty, et cetera, et cetera. Look, Acho, you're at the wrong station right now. We're at Fox right here. The Hallmark Channel is somewhere on Sunset. I'm certain that somebody wants to hear that, and there's a show for you. But right here, we talking big business. We talking college football. These guys can transfer right now. They're getting paid right now.
They're not getting paid.
Hold on. They have the opportunity to get paid, to earn money. Yes, they can leave early to go to the NFL to get paid, et cetera, et cetera. Here you go. It's not that I'm attached to money. It's just like the old saying, life is a sandwich. No matter how you flip it, the bread comes first. And that's how you got to look at this situation. The bread comes first. Brian Kelly realizes that he's the same guy that he was when he got to Notre Dame. You forgot. How did Brian Kelly get to Notre Dame? Ask Cincinnati. And when did he do it? Mm-hmm. Exactly. Going into a bowl game situation, hey, I got an opportunity to go to Notre Dame. Promotion to another level. We all choose to elevate. We all choose that ascension. We cannot condemn somebody because of the timing of their ascension. He hit the button for the elevator, as we all do. And then the elevator showed up. You're not supposed to get on. You're supposed to wait. And at Notre Dame, it's interesting. Let's talk some college football history. Because if you really respect college football, you respect who started college football. The Ivy League, right? And the Ivy League, we sit there. Here we go. 1934, we won the Rose Bowl. I'm talking to y'all. Okay, let me fast forward the Hallmark movie that I was going to play. Okay, point being, I've seen firsthand the consequences or the compromise that comes from high academic standards on a football field or in sports in general. Mm-hmm. The Ivy League used to win. We used to be big time. We were D1A. We used to go out. We won the Rose Bowl, et cetera, et cetera. And then they made a conscious switch. And with that conscious switch came a different breed of athlete. He knows at Notre Dame there's a cap in terms of what kind of athlete we're getting because we're getting better citizens. We're getting more varsity players. We're getting better people for the community. But he knows he can go somewhere with different academic standards, lesser. He could go somewhere else where there's a breeding ground right in your backyard. This is not South Bend, bruh. This is Louisiana, where you go down the street in your locale, there's ripe pickings. I think it was just a great move, not only financially, but for his success to try and close that gap between him and Nick Saban.
I do want to. I hear you, but tell me what he was supposed to do.
Great. That's a
let the elevator just go.
It's a very simple question. Who knew that Brian Kelly was leaving Notre Dame first? Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly knew before you, before I, before you, before the reporters, before the beat writers, before anybody that leaked the story. Brian Kelly knew. Brian Kelly, you can communicate with your team at the point in which you know that you are leaving, so that they don't have to find out via beat writers, via Twitter, via Instagram, via social media, via TV shows. As soon as you know, just communicate it. Only issue I have, Klatt, Sel, is the timing. The point of coaching college football, make your money as a head coach, win games, and develop young men, develop that program. You're winning games, you're developing young men, and you're making money. Can you make more? Yes. But my thing is like, Klatt, I'm not too old to remember or have forgotten when college players get ripped to shreds for not playing in bowl games because they want to go secure their NFL futures. Imagine you start the season 6-0. Ian Book, maybe Notre Dame. You start the season balling. Oh, I'm balling. I'm just going to take the rest of the season off. Imagine what Brian Kelly would have said to him. Imagine what Notre Dame fans would have said to him. Imagine what they would say to a guy who's balling in the middle of the season. Yeah, things are going well. I'm just going to go ahead and quit on the team. Y'all are about to go to a bowl game, potentially a playoff game. I already have Notre Dame making the playoffs. In my mind, they'll get into 4th spot.
And do what?
And now you going to leave to go chase money when you already got the ultimate or the secondary goal, which
so you don't want him to leave.
You
said two different things. You said first it was the way it was communicated to the players.
It's the timing.
Yeah, but the timing's not his fault.
Yeah, that's on the writers.
That's what I was just trying to explain. Like, the timing is the timing because of the structure of the sport. College football is set up for everyone to act in their own best interest. The players are set up to act in their own best interest. The coaches, the administration, the schools themselves, like Oklahoma and Texas. Leaving the Big 12 high and dry. How's that one taste?
How's that timing?
And so I mean, like, the conferences act in their own best interest. That's the race, right? So when I sit down to play Monopoly with my kids, I can't all of a sudden be like, "You got Park Place, that's unfair." Like that's just the rules of the game.
Yes.
And I get it. It's not great. I don't love it for those players. I hate it for those players. I don't know. Is Brian Kelly supposed to?
Why do you hate it for the players? People say that. I think that's almost
for them.
I think that's a speak and say. You remember those little games? He used to pull the string, and then the little toy always say the same thing. It reminds me of that. I feel sorry for the players. If you're trying to raise young men into grown men, the quicker you can let them know the reality that they're going to face, the better you're doing them in terms of service.
That doesn't mean that the first time you face that reality isn't hard.
Oh, no, hard. Hey, look, and life is hard.
And unfortunately, now I don't think that this is the case at Notre Dame, because Notre Dame does about as good a job as any program in the country of identifying really fine young men. I mean, you sit with Notre Dame players, and they are excellent. Kyle Hamilton, and this dude is like top-notch, great, high draft pick, person, everything, right? But at the same time, that doesn't mean that it's not a hard lesson to learn.
But it's a lesson you need to learn.
It is a lesson. And
it's a lesson they've already taught.
I was going to say that Notre Dame's done a great job, and they have these high-quality, high-class individuals. But at a lot of schools, that's not the case. And you got really fragile 18 to 22-year-olds that maybe haven't had father figures in their life, and the biggest father figure they've ever had is that position coach or coordinator or head coach. Well, that's hard, right? So it's just like saying, well, I don't care about a kid whose parents get divorced. Like, that's still hard.
No, that's not what I'm saying. If that kid has an opportunity because of his talents to leave early, he will leave. That relationship doesn't have to depart with his physical.
But that's not every kid.
But that's not, yeah, most kids don't make it, right? So that means in this situation, the kids already have been taught the lesson, and therefore the kids are now teaching the lesson. But they're teaching it before they even get to college. I've seen too many times. When I came out, there was no ceremony. There was no gym class where everyone showed up with cameras and which school are you going to? And tons of resources have been poured into you as a 4 or 5 star. And you sat there with your LSU hat and you sat there with your Notre Dame hat and played with schools and played with the futures of those programs and those coaches, right? This lesson's been taught so well, these players are now teaching it themselves before we get here. No tears dropping when all of a sudden your coach says, I got to go, because no tears dropping when you look at me as a player and say, Coach, I got to go get my opportunity. I pushed the elevator as a freshman. It's here. I'm 21 years old. I'm an All-American. It's time to go make my money. I don't understand why we're trying to flip this into a guilt conversation, because it sounds like everyone's in the same pursuit.
And I'm on your side on this one, certainly. That doesn't mean that it doesn't suck for those players.
The reason, to me, I have issue with it is not because it's not hard, not because life isn't hard. I have issue with the deception of it all. Do not tell me,
You think he lied?
Bruh, I think he did.
How?
No,
I mean,
November 22nd.
He gave himself an out. You believe in the fairy godmother?
Sir, but the fairy godmother, the out that he gave was attached to $250 million. So if you gonna keep it real,
so you're mad that he lied about the amount?
I'm mad that he lied in general because he was being facetious.
Yes.
He said, "I'm not leaving." He quoted Tomlin, and Tomlin said, "Never say never, but never." Close quote.
So you don't like Nick Saban? You don't like...
I don't like the deception. Just keep it real with me. If you're going to leave...
Here, let me help you.
Please.
You ready? Do you know the coach I trust out there the most? Right now?
None.
No.
I'm about to say, who are you talking about?
Somebody has an Ivy League education. None of them, right?
No.
Like
Acho.
The first coach I trust is or the next coach I trust will be the first.
The first one.
I hate to say that, but why? Yeah. Because that's the race that we are in.
Klatt, break it down. Let's talk. This segment could go forever, but we're going to get out of here soon. The nature of becoming a college head coach is this. I walk into a living room. Acho, hey, man, I know you play linebacker, a little defensive end, whatever it may be. I want you to come to University of blank, right? Mm-hmm. And you are going to be our guy. Look, we got a guy there already, but already now I see the talent in you. I see your size, your frame. We're going to make this work. He leaves you on a private jet and lands in my house, living room. Says the exact same thing to me. And then we got to fight this out. And it's survival of the fittest. My one thing I want you to understand is this. It's my birthday today. I was born in 1974. What year were you born?
90.
90.
90?
90. This is so simple math right here. Klatt.
I ain't like all that.
You're a grown man.
Do you understand what he just said?
I do.
You talking about the reality? Notre Dame has not won a championship since you've been born, bruh. LSU has won 3 since that same time. The answer is in the money. The answer is in the accomplishments. The answer is in the opportunity. There's nothing else to really calculate.
Do you remember what you served? Like when Mac came to your house and sat in your living room, did you guys have dinner at your house?
Mac came to my high school, and I'll say this much, and maybe Mac is a different breed.
You were the 4-star, not 5. He ain't come to your house.
And I was begging. I was a walk-on. I was begging.
Nobody came to my house.
And maybe my standard is high because I had Mac.
Yeah.
And Mac was never like, hey, you going to come in and start right away. Mac was like, nah, I mean, you got to earn your stripes.
Nah, I mean.
Did you cook a meal? Like, was there a meal in your house where Mac Brown was
Plantains, did you do it?
No. Mac came to the school and we sat
Okay, so
there.
here's what I joke with assistant coaches all the time. We're sitting there like, hour and a half before the game. We're sitting on the field and you'll see pictures like, what's Klatt laughing about with the assistants? I always be like, hey, like, give me your worst meal on a recruiting trip story. And they are like, oh, man, I had to choke down, blah, 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 And I'm like, exactly. So you were lying about the meal, weren't you? Yep. They've been lying to these players since the meal.
But does that make it okay?
Yes.
Can we at least establish that?
Yes.
That they do be lying? I'm just simply saying it is not okay. If y'all want to say that they lie, cool.
It's the game. It's the art of war. It's the art of war.
Line, right? So Brian Kelly can't go recruit to Notre Dame by saying, I'm open for business, I'm for sale, right? Because that'll be used against him in recruiting. So he's got to say, I'm not for sale, I'm going to be here for the long haul so that he can go recruit on the chance that he doesn't get the 9-figure offer. Again, it's a tough business, and I think a lot of it has to do with the guardrails of when guys can get talked to and when they can't get talked to. If we had a tampering clause in college football, if we didn't have the early signing day period, then maybe things would settle down and you could be more into the offseason, and then a coach can say, listen, I need to make a business decision. So the timing is clouding this, and I think that we get too emotional based on the timing of when these decisions happen, because Brian Kelly can't, or Lincoln Riley can't ever say, like I would leave. You can't do that.
No.
And still be successful.
Yeah, the toughest thing for me is I think where you're caught between the reality and the perception or deception, track and field, first block, got to go there. When you're fast at your school and you show up early to class just to race everybody, like I used to, before school, nutrition, lunch, after school, you did all that, right? Do you remember the first time you all of a sudden got introduced to what fast really looked like? Not just fast, like I could beat everybody I know, but somebody you don't know, and he's as fast as you. What happens is you go to the city meet or the state meet or the nationals, and then you look over and you're like, who is that? They make them like that? And I think Brian Kelly came to this realization after every college football appearance. They make them like that? I've been on a recruiting trail with them. I've been trying to get them. I look at my team, I self-scout. I look at that team, I realize there's no keeping up with these other teams. Point being, Brian Kelly just came to the realization. The elevator came, he says, finally, take another step.
I get it.
Thank you.
You don't like it. Look, you're a purist.
Like it.
You're a purist.
Well, Klatt, appreciate you, bro.
Yeah,
always good for joining
Happy
us.
birthday.
Thank you. My email is, and then gift certificate, send it. Let's move on.